Question for you. If 10W-30 is just a viscosity, why did an entire state stop sales of some bottles carrying that exact label? The Alabama no-sale case proved not all 10W-30s meet standards. That's not rumor, that's regulation. In the next minutes, I'll show how label trust can backfire in air-cooled engines that run hot and see big temperature swings. You'll learn why poor formulations shear cause deposits and spike oil consumption, and how to pick oils that actually protect your Kohler instead of quietly wearing it down. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Did you know 2 bottles marked 10W-30 can act like different liquids once the engine gets hot? Most people expect that if the label says 10W-30, it should behave like 10W-30 in winter starts and summer mowing. Alike, that's the belief. Same grade, same protection, but that grade only tells you how the oil flows at specific test temperatures. It doesn't tell you how the oil is built, how it resists heat and shear, or whether it meets the standards your engine actually needs. Think of it like 2 shoes, both stamped size 10. One pair is stiff cardboard, the other is well-made leather. They both fit when you try them on, but only one holds up when you start moving, sweating, and putting pressure on every seam. Oil works the same way. The number gets you in the door, but the construction decides how it survives under load. Here's where the chemistry matters. Multi-grade oils use viscosity index improvers, long-chain polymers that help the oil behave across a wider temperature range. They coil up when cold and relax when hot, smoothing out viscosity changes. When these improvers are robust and blended with good base stocks, the oil stays in grade and keeps a protective film even when cylinder head temps climb. When the VI improvers are low quality, they can shear. Mechanical stress and hot spots literally chop those polymer chains into smaller pieces. Once that happens, the oil thins out beyond its rated high-temperature grade, and your margin of protection shrinks. Air-cooled engines, like many Kohlers in mowers and garden tractors, run through bigger temperature swings than liquid-cooled engines. They rely on airflow and fins, so you get hotter localized zones, especially around the exhaust valve area and on long, heavy cuts in warm weather. That's the worst environment for weak VI improvers. The oil sees repeated spikes in heat and shear, and the additive system has to fight oxidation and volatility at the same time. If the blend can't take it, viscosity drops, deposits form faster, and consumption creeps up. Owners have seen it firsthand. On small engine forums, one user who moved from straight 30 to a bargain 10W-30 reported blue smoke on startup and said the oil turned very, very dark in color, no matter how often it was changed. Another voice jumped in with a hard line. Short answer is, don't run multi-grade oil in an air-cooled 4-stroke regardless, even noting a dealership that suggested straight 30 once the warranty ended. Those opinions echo a real pattern. When the multi-grade isn't built well, the engine tells on it with smoke, odor, and a dipstick that keeps dropping. But this doesn't mean every multi-grade is a problem. High-quality synthetic 10W-30s and 5W-40s leverage stronger base oils and more shear-stable polymer systems. Users have reported good results with reputable products, including running a 10W-30 heavy-duty oil in mowers, generators, and pressure washers without the smoke and thirst. The difference shows up in certification and in how the oil behaves after hours of hot work, stable viscosity, cleaner internals, and less top-off between services. So the number on the front won't save your engine on a steamy Saturday. The back label and the data behind it does the real talking. Look for current API service categories, the certification marks, and manufacturer documentation that spells out compliance. Those details hint at additive balance, base stock quality, and the likelihood that the viscosity will stay put when your Kohler sees head temps the test bench never mimics. If the label can mask a weak formula, did anyone ever step in to call it out? They did, and one state's move put the entire market on notice. Ever heard of a state pull certain 10W-30 bottles off shelves? Not because of the number on the front, but because lab tests said the contents didn't match the claims. That's exactly what sparked attention in 2014, when Alabama issued a no-sale order on specific motor oils. The issue wasn't the viscosity grade itself. It was what the oil did, or failed to do, when tested against the standards it claimed to meet. The labels promised compliance. The samples didn't deliver. Here's how that happens. A bottle can say 10W-30 and still miss key benchmarks that keep engines safe under heat and load. The Alabama action targeted products that failed state quality checks, including some labeled 10W-30 and other grades. The findings pointed to products that either didn't meet the viscosity range at test temperatures, had inadequate additive profiles, or lacked proper API certification, despite packaging that suggested compliance. When a regulator posts a no-sale order, it's a line in the sand. If the oil doesn't meet the benchmarks it claims, it doesn't belong in the marketplace. State labs don't guess. They run standardized measurements of viscosity at specified temperatures, assess additive presence and balance, and examine whether the base oil and formulation align with APEI/SAE benchmarks. They also look for traceable certification marks and documentation. If the sample's hot side viscosity falls short, or if the additive package is weak, that oil won't maintain film strength when the engine is working hard. And if you run that oil in an air-cooled engine, the gaps get wider fast. Why does this matter for your garage? Off-spec oil shears more easily, oxidizes faster, and can leave heavier deposits. In hot, air-cooled engines, common in mowers and small equipment, those effects stack up. These engines see wider temperature swings and higher localized head temperatures, so weak multi-grade formulations can lose viscosity stability and push volatility higher. That's when you notice rising oil consumption, startup smoke, and a darker drain after fewer hours. It looks like old engine behavior, but the timing often starts right after a switch to a bargain bottle. You don't need a lab in your toolbox to avoid this. Start with what the back label shows. Look for the API service category, SJ, SL, SM, SN, or SP, and make sure it matches what your engine manual calls for. Check for the certification marks, the API donut, and the ILSAC starburst when applicable. Reputable brands publish product data sheets you can actually find. Those sheets list viscosity at 40 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius, high temperature, high shear values, and volatility numbers. If that information is missing or vague, treat it as a red flag. There's also the temperature angle. Small engine makers provide guidance on matching viscosity to ambient temperatures. For example, guidance from Kohler points to straight 30 weight above roughly 40 degrees Fahrenheit and a multi-grade below that point. Manuals from Kohler and Onan warn that running multi-weight oils above recommended temperatures can increase oil consumption and carbon deposits. That aligns with what you see in hot, air-cooled service. If the formulation can't hold grade, the engine pays the price in deposits and wear. The Alabama case is the reminder many people needed. Multiple brands were flagged, showing that you can't assume uniform quality across bottles that share the same front number. Compliance and formulation quality outweigh the label shorthand. If you've watched a mower start smoking after a change to a cheap 10W-30, that may be volatility and shear at work, not a sudden jump in engine age. And it's preventable. With the right markings, verified data, and a viscosity that matches your climate and engine spec, you can avoid oils that thin out when your head temps climb. Now that you know what can go wrong when the lab numbers don't back the label, let's pick an oil that won't cook your Kohler when the yard is at its hottest. The risk isn't 10W-30. It's an off-spec blend hiding behind that label. The 2014 Alabama no-sale order, which banned several oils including Bullseye 10W-30, showed how a bottle can fail minimum quality tests, even while wearing the right numbers. So you protect your engine by verifying compliance, not by guessing. Check the API donut or starburst. Match the API service category to your owner's manual. Use a viscosity chart to fit your climate and workload. Favor brands with published data sheets listing viscosity and volatility. You paid for durability. Don't let a cheap label turn heat and shear into an early rebuild.